Good afternoon. So I want to talk about EMDR and dissociative identity disorder. There are still a few people out there that think you can't do EMDR when you have DID, and that is a myth. And the biggest myth I kind of want to go over today is this concept of working through the adult self. So there's this idea kind of born a little bit out of structural dissociation theory about the quote, apparently normal part, or that you need to be working with an adult self when processing trauma. And I want to say that that is false. That is very, very false. And I want to talk a little bit about what it really looks like when you do EMDR when somebody has dissociative identity disorder. There are a few important things to ask and to prepare for before you go into processing trauma with EMDR and somebody with DID. Number one, you want to figure out who needs to be there. It may be that a child or a little part needs to be present for the trauma processing. We firmly believe that whoever's memory that it is the one that needs to do the processing, and this is what we have done for ourselves. The other thing to ask is who needs to be with them, or who do they want with them? And so I have two stories for this. Number one is Daisy. Daisy is our 3-year-old alter, though she age sized from like 18 months all the way up to 16 years of age. But in general, for her memory, 3 is where she's at. Actually, that memory, we probably were less than 2, but Daisy always identifies as 3. So she's very little, but she wanted to have certain selves be there with her while she was doing the reprocessing. So she invited adult selves to come and sit with her. The other example I have is Jenny. Jenny is our 4-year-old alter. Now, Jenny didn't want anybody there. Jenny wanted to do that processing by herself, which was perfectly okay to do. It is okay. We have to remember that littles or child alters are not the same thing as actual children. Just because a part might identify with a particular age doesn't mean they're just like a child of that biological age. Jenny has a lot of abilities to do things all by herself, even though she's, quote, 4 years old. Although my therapist always feels like she presents older than that, but that's how old she tells us she is. She did not want anybody there. And in fact, she did her EMDR processing by herself for quite a few sessions before she allowed anybody else to come near. And that's mostly because she was the gatekeeper, the keeper of the secrets, the keeper of the trauma that nobody else is supposed to know about, right? And so it was imperative for a therapist to honor that about Jenny and allow Jenny to proceed. Now, she didn't force Jenny to do the EMDR. She didn't force us to do it any particular way. She allowed us to decide how we needed to show up for that reprocessing. So this is giving that client choice, giving that client autonomy, understanding that the client is the expert of themselves. And that's very important to do in the therapeutic relationship and the rapport building, is to lean into what your client knows is best for them and themselves. And Jenny knew that she needed to be by herself at first for a good portion of this reprocessing of that memory. So if you are going to do EMDR and you have DID, or you are a therapist that wants to do EMDR with a client that has DID, we highly recommend creating what I call the battle plan of beforehand. And that's literally mapping out who's going to be present and who's going to be there during the reprocessing of the traumatic event. So we're going to map out our previous EMDR session here for you all, because we did this with our therapist in her office, and I'm going to show you what a battle plan would really look like, right? So we're sitting there, we're talking, we have our target of what we need to work on, and the question comes up is who needs to be there, right? So we have our little whiteboard over here. So we are going to put down and kind of map out how we're doing this. So here's our whiteboard. So this particular memory belonged to a little named Charlotte. So we're putting Charlotte in the very center of the board. And I see that we have a lovely glare on this board as I'm trying to write this. So my apologies. Maybe I can just move it over a little bit like that. Okay, so we have Charlotte. Charlotte is the main one. who needs to be here. However, this particular memory doesn't involve just Charlotte. There's actually a group of us, and so we kind of put that group together, but we're kind of keeping Charlotte in the center of this, okay? So in addition to Charlotte being here, like this memory also involves Jenny. It involves Daisy and Blossom. It involved Johnny. It involved Sunshine and Moonlight. Yes, Sunshine and Moonlight are some new littles in our system. Fun times, people. All right, Moonlight. Oh yeah, and it involved Maisie. Maisie's actually a teen alter of ours. So this was interesting that she kind of popped up when we were asked who needs to be, like, who does this belong to, and her name came up. What's interesting is that if we had asked this question of, say, Daisy, I don't think Daisy could have told our therapist all of these names, but we asked Charlotte, and Charlotte's the one that said all of these need to be here. And the other one that needs to be on this board, which I'm going to put over here, is Baby. Baby doesn't have a name, it's just a baby part. And so these are all the ones that need to be here because this is their memory. So I'm just going to put a nice little circle around everybody here. So that's who needs to be here. Now, the next question would be, who do these guys want there with them? Who do they want to either sit with them or be next to them or be part of like protecting during the memory? And so immediately what came up was Keelara. So we're just going to add Keelara over here. Our therapist suggested Snow. She asked if Snow could be present, if that would be a good one. Our therapist knows our system very well, and that was definitely an agreement. We had to think about that for a few minutes, though. Like, we had to, like, kind of listen to everybody and get that input, but then they agreed that, yes, they wanted Snow to be there, so we're going to add Snow up here. Okay, and then it occurred to us, because part of this particular trauma reprocessing memory involves some things that we're seeing in the internal world, which I do believe that internal worlds are a metaphor for trauma and for things happening in present day. And so there is, I don't want to give too much information, so I'm just going to put a shape as a symbol for the thing that we're seeing in the internal world, okay? And I'm just going to draw that up here. We're going to put a little triangle. So there's this issue that we're having in the internal world here. And basically, Keelara and Snow are being like a protector in that sense to prevent that from interfering with the trauma processing, which kind of means that if Keelara and Snow are busy with the triangle thing, then we still need somebody else who can be with this group, that this group doesn't want to be by themselves. They want a big here, and that's key. They want the big there. And so they chose Leanna. So I'm going to put Leanna over here because she's with everybody, whereas Keelara and Snow are taking care of the triangle piece, which is why they're over here. And we have this visual sitting down in front of us. So while we're doing reprocessing, so when we finish a set and the therapist is asking, you know, what are you noticing now, right? You know, then we can point to different parts of us, you know, like we can maybe point to the triangle over here, and so that our therapist knows there's something happening there. And we have this to reference, you know, so for example, when, like, what are we noticing now? There were body sensations, but those body sensations were coming from Baby. And so we were able to go ahead and point to Baby, and because there was not a whole lot of talking happening here, so some nonverbal stuff we got going on too, but we were able to kind of sign language and show her what the body sensations were and who they were coming from. And so then we were able to notice that. Right. But because we have everybody else here, everybody else was able to be with Baby during that. So this is just a small example of how we set things up. But the two most important things to remember: who needs to be there, who do they want there? I see I got marker on my finger. Who wants to be there, and who do they want there with them? And a third question to also ask is, who do they want to not be there? Is there somebody that needs to be put away inside the internal world that should not be looking at all of this? And of course, for us, this is always our therapist part. When we go to therapy, we can't bring our therapist part to therapy. She gets too analytical and is studying our therapist. Oh, we could do that with our clients, but we really need to be focusing on us. So sometimes we take Sadie and we put her over here and we say, no, Sadie, oh, I don't think you saw it. No, Sadie, you cannot not be here for this, you know. So those are the 3 important things to be asking. Who needs to be here? Who wants to be here? Who do we want there? And then who do we need to keep away? Those are some important things to do before reprocessing a trauma memory. And literally drawing out the map and labeling where everyone's going to be during the reprocessing. All right, guys, thanks for listening. We are currently offering consultations, and we are also offering a system coaching group. So we're going to bring a group of people together that all have DID, and we're going to do some coaching about how to do some system management, how to get parts to cooperate with each other and have some alignment in their goals. If you would interested in joining, please head over to our website, acoupleofmultiples.com, for more information. Thanks, guys.